So for anybody watching this video, I want to introduce Heather Yakes. She's one of our franchise partners here in the Go Big region, not too far from our offices. I think we are maybe 20, 30 minutes away from each other, and that's about
30
it.
minutes. That's
Yep.
right.
And so Heather, if you could just share a little bit about your background and what kind of roles you were in prior to Action Coach, because you came out of the corporate world,
Mhm.
and how long have you been with us?
Sure. So I spent over 20 years in the corporate world, had a very blessed career. My background is actually in supply chain and operations. So had a very good career in that. Spent about half of that career in that aspect specifically. And then the other half of those 20 years was actually focused in corporate strategy. So a little bit of both from the operation standpoint and then looking at the big picture. And in corporate America, I was primarily working with very large businesses, billion and above type companies, such as Worthington Industries, Cardinal Health, Avery Dennison, Liggett and Platt, just to name a few. I also ran our supply chain practice for Arthur Andersen, which was one of the big five consulting and tax firms here. Well, actually, it was a global firm at the time when it existed. So very much on the operations side and then corporate strategy side. And joined the Action Coach family about 6.5 years ago. It'll be 7 years in February of 2021. So I have had a very blessed career with Action Coach as well.
Yeah, and I still remember when we first met at that Panera Bread.
I do too.
Right there in Pickerington, yeah. And I remember you brought Jeff with you, and
Right.
he was kind of skeptical. He was kind of sitting back and asking me the tough questions, kind of a thing. But I remember you were kind of skeptical too. You were still looking at, should I get another corporate job? Do I want to do that again? You were a breadwinner. Jeff had just started his CPA practice a couple of years prior, if I remember right. And you guys had 2 kids, both playing sports and doing all that. And so tell us a little bit more about what were you feeling? What was the fear at that time? And what helped you get over that as you went through the due diligence process?
Yeah, so well, you mentioned basically everything that was going on at that time. I was the primary earner for our family. We had 2 kids entering high school. And one of the reasons of even considering going out on my own was the fact that they were entering high school and I wanted to get off the airplane and make sure that I, spent those last few quality years with them at home. And so that was very important to me, but I had really never thought about going out on my own until I got the call from Action Coach. And so it was something just completely kind of new and foreign to me, and really exploring it with you was just something that I'd never done before. So I wasn't really skeptical about Action Coach, but just the whole fact of leaving the comfort of that nice corporate paycheck that I had been so blessed to have for so long. So it was a very, very scary decision at the time. And thankfully, we have a good due diligence process. And there was one thing that made me finally make the switch. And this is something that I share with all of the candidates that are going through due diligence. And it was, of course, my husband, Jeff, who said, "Hey, what's the worst thing that could happen?" Well, I could fail. I might not make any money at this, right? And we need the money. Great. So what would you do if that happened? And I said, well, I'd go back and get a job. so, the worst thing is I'd have to go back to the corporate world. And I definitely did not want to do that. So that inspired my motivation to do well.
Wow, that's a good story. And so now when you first started, because the kids were in school and they were both involved in sports, getting ready for college, all that stuff. If I recall, you made a commitment. You and Jeff decided together. You made a commitment that you weren't going to start work until the kids were gone to school in the morning, and you were going to be home when they got home every day. And you were going to be at all their sporting events and have all that life balance. So your goals initially were, I need to replace my corporate income quickly, and I want to be a mom that's at home and has tons of balance with the family. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's right. And so a couple of things, I was very restrictive of my travel. Obviously, I had to go to training, but once through training, I have in 6.5 years, I think I've missed one, maybe two activities for it in total for both kids. So I've been very focused on the great part about owning your own business is you dictate your time. So I start early in the morning with my day once they go off to school. And then I finish up by 3 o'clock or by 4:30 because they are athletes. So they do have practices after school. But during the summer, I don't work on Fridays, or I'm done even a little bit earlier. I get done what I need to get done, and I just spend time with the family. And that's very, very important to me. And now that one is in college and one is graduating high school this year, I'm like, I need to make sure I don't fill up my time with work, right? So I have to be challenged to make sure that we have a good balance of life.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just getting started out, could you share a little bit on what was your experience with the training, the culture, the support
Yeah.
from us as master licensees, the support from the other franchisees around the country and around the
Yeah.
world? What's the community like here?
Well, it's one of the reasons that I bought into the Action Coach franchise was because of the community. And that's something that I experienced through the due diligence process. It was very, very much a part of who you are. And it's not just during the due diligence, it's been that way all 6.5 years that I've been with the firm. So, you know, obviously, I always tell everybody going through due diligence, Craig and Annette are the best supporters they're your best cheerleaders. They will be there no matter what. They'll laugh with you, they'll cry with you, they'll pick you up when you need picked up if you need that. And then they'll kind of, say, what are you doing if that needs to happen as well. And so we really appreciate that. But what I want to share is that what I was most overwhelmed about is a couple things. Number one, that during due diligence, everyone was willing to talk to me, and take their time to really have a good conversation. Everybody was open and honest. Everybody was real. They told you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Good, right? The other part of that is when I arrived at training, I was one of 14 that were new franchise owners, and there were only 5 of us from the United States. So I just thought that, wow, when I originally signed on, I thought I'm going to be on my own, but I'm really not. I have this group of coaches from all around the world that I can tap into at any time for information or for support. And I still stay in contact with those coaches all the time, every week. We're pretty much communicating and seeing how things are going on in different parts of the world.
Yeah, you mentioned the global nature. It's really cool because I thought similarly, okay, this is gonna be my own business. I'm gonna be kind of on my own. They're gonna give me what I need. But it actually reminds me of like when I was at GE, we had a global organization and there was people all over the world that I communicated with regularly. And then I got into this and I went, wow, it's the same kind
Same
of
thing.
of
Yeah.
feel, except it is my own business. I'm not playing all the corporate politics stuff anymore. Which
Right.
is awesome. I can create what I want to create.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, Heather, when you first started, what were the ways that you marketed yourself
Mhm.
to get clients? Because we've got a lot of different ways that we can approach the marketing side of the fence, and a lot of different tools and a lot of different strategies to use. Which were the ones that you picked, and which ones did you settle in over time that you really enjoy the
Yeah.
most?
So I think one of the keys to some early success for me is that when I finished training, I I implemented and tried every marketing strategy that was on the list of possibilities that we had been taught. And what I tell new coaches is that a couple things. You need to try every single one because you're looking for two things. Number one, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? Because if you enjoy it, you'll do it well. And then secondly, what are you good at? Because you may be passionate about something, but you're not good at it. Or you may be good at something, but you're not really passionate. And you need to find those key things, those the kind of the intersection of those two things to really kind of hone in on your marketing. Now, as you know, we implement multiple marketing strategies at any given time. But the one thing that I really enjoyed and I'm fairly good at is speaking. So I utilize our 6 Steps to a Better Business seminar that is part of the standard system for Action Coach. I use it exactly how it is right out of the system. I do 1 to 2 of those a month, and I have a whole marketing campaign then to get people to that to those seminars. That is my number one marketing and conversion tool.
And you've been doing those since the very beginning, because I remember doing your first one with you at your launch event at the bank way back.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
we just, with things going on, we just had our first face-to-face again last week, and it was full, as full as it was allowed to be. So we're back on track, and it's so exciting because I really enjoy doing it. And it's the information that we have to share, whether they decide to go on for coaching or not, is so powerful that they walk away there always with, wow, what a wealth of knowledge that I can go back and apply to my business right away.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about it too. It makes
Mhm.
the intangible nature of what we do very tangible, shows them the results, gives them tools they can use immediately.
Yes.
And now, so you get the vast majority of your clients come from your speaking opportunities, then, correct?
Well, yes and no. Now it's client referrals, right? Because I've been around for a while.
Yep.
But number one is referrals, and then number two are those speaking events.
Super. And talk about like BizX and the national conferences. Obviously, because of COVID, things have been, virtual this year, but normally when we have our conferences and clients go to those conferences and things like that, speak a little bit to the community that we create with clients, and even the community that you as an individual franchise partner create with your clients in your city.
Right. Right. So we have global and regional conferences every year, and particularly those regional conferences, BizX, we are allowed to invite our clients, and we are also able to nominate our clients for national awards. We're actually going through that process right now of nominating our clients, and the reason this is important is a couple reasons. They number one, get to go to those conferences and learn, so it's a learning activity, but it's also an opportunity to sit in a room with hundreds of people that are CEOs and business owners going through the same opportunities and challenges that they are. So there's opportunities for them to make connections that way. And the other reason that those are important is because it gives them an opportunity to be a finalist, to be nominated for those awards, and to help market themselves for that reason. Hey, we're a finalist for a national award. So we help them with their marketing. We also do local events called Growth Club. That's where every 90 days, we do planning. We bring all our clients together. This year, we're doing actually a combined Growth Club with a client appreciation event. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing 90-day planning for a few hours with all our clients together. And then we're going to be doing Top Golf. So that way they get to know each other and, share best practices and really build that sense of community.
Yeah, the community is really, really cool. They
Mm-hmm.
end up learning from each other, and it
Mm-hmm.
helps the coaching
Mm-hmm.
to
It
kind
helps with
of,
retention
mm,
too, because nobody wants to leave the community, right?
yeah, yeah. Now, since you've been in business, you've certainly run across a lot of people that are out in the marketplace. They're a single shingle person calling themselves a business coach, and you know, they're not affiliated with like Action Coach or just some independent person. How, from your perspective, Heather, what differentiates being an action coach from all those other people out there who call themselves business coaches?
Yeah, there's really no comparison whatsoever. So, you know, I get asked that question a lot with just because of my corporate experience. Why would you go buy a franchise when you just go out and do it on your own? And there's a couple of reasons that I give as to why that's important. Number one, the systems that we have been proven. We've been around for 27 years, and the systems that we implement and the methodologies that we implement with small businesses work, and it's proven to work. If you're leaving the corporate world and going out on your own, it may be different what you did with $1 billion company than what $1 million company needs. Their needs are different. And so it's one of the reasons that I bought the Action Coach franchise. I didn't want to figure it out. I wanted to buy what already was proven. And so I feel bad for sometimes for those folks that kind of go out on their own because they got to take time to figure it out. The other thing is they're kind of going from one client then selling, going to the next, instead of the system we have of, you know, building a business. And so having the systems and the processes to follow, to the tools, the knowledge, the continual learning that we have makes it different, because when you're just a one-off coach, those clients can only grow as much as you do.
Yeah, very, very good point. And so Heather, what kinds of clients do you like to work with? Like share some of your, what types of clients, sizes, industries, male, female, age demographic, what have you worked with and what do you really like to work with?
So we are not specific to an industry. We work with all industries. We have clients that are underground drillers all the way to PR companies, attorneys, manufacturing companies, all industries. So we are not specific to an industry. And the reason is they are the experts in their industry. We're not consultants, we're coaches. They're the experts in their industry. We are the experts in running and growing businesses. So that's where the partnership comes in. What we have found is that kind of our sweet spot of clients are between that 500 to 5 million, 500,000 to 5 million. Usually between that 500,000 to a million is when they're starting to feel the pain. They've done a great job building the business to there. They may have a small team. They want to take it to the next level, but they can't, they don't know how, right? They've gotten it that far and they really need somebody to take them to the next level. The type of client that we like to work with is that, number one, they must be willing to learn and they must be willing to be coachable. So we have a process, a vetting process that we go through to determine that before we'll take on a client. And most importantly, we will fire a client. That's very important to us. If they're not doing the work, then coaching is not for them.
Yep, exactly. And so what's one of your favorite client stories?
Oh, wow. There are so many. So we have a PR firm that actually started with me early on in my coaching. And when she started with me, she was about a $400,000 business. And she had a team of 2 other people. So a total team of 3. And within 2.5 years, she was at $3 million. So she took it from a 400,000 to a 3 million, and she is far beyond that. She's now in multiple cities. She has a team of almost 30. She doesn't need to be there in the business. She's kind of the face of the business, but she can travel whenever she wants to with her kiddos. We went through the birth of 3 kiddos during that time, actually. So that's one. Another one is a video animation companies, kind of same situation. They were about a $5,000 company, and within 24 months, they were over 2 million. And the business, he does not need to be there at all. And he's actually started a second business. I'm going to give you a third one because I want to just show you the diversity here. We have a landscaping client. He He's under 30 years old. He started by mowing lawns. As a matter of fact, that's their logo, of this little kid mowing lawns. When I started with them, they were about a $600 business. Him and his mom own the business. And they're going to hit almost $4 million this year. And they're starting to franchise the business, and they're in multiple states. So it is amazing to see these businesses and these individuals go through this change.
Yeah, it is so cool. And,
Mhm.
we talk about life change, like business should give you more life. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it really is about the changing of the lives of the people that are running those businesses and the people that get to work there then.
Yeah. One of the biggest indicators for them is actually because a lot of times when they start with us, not all the time, but many times, they're not paying themselves, or they're not paying themselves well, or they're paying themselves only whatever is left over at the end of each month. And so when they are getting a consistent, very good six-figure paycheck from their own business, that's a uh, pretty powerful statement for them.
Yeah, exactly. So now your vision has shifted a bit since you've joined Action Coach. Originally it was, I want balance. I want to do something I believe in. I want to obviously duplicate my corporate income and more. Uh,
Mhm.
how has your vision shifted? Where's your vision on a go forward basis?
Yeah, so my practice has been built primarily on one coaching clients as opposed to group coaching. And last year, I brought on an employee business coach. I have a marketing coordinator, and we'll be bringing on another marketing person and another business coach. So I am actually following our own message, which is to build a profitable enterprise that can work without me. So I am currently in process of leveraging me so that we have business coaches under me. I'll be the master coach. I might coach a few clients, but we're also creating some higher level coaching programs, like board of directors level, that our clients are graduating into, where they don't meet every week, they meet once a quarter. I'll be doing things like that. I'll be just doing the speaking events, just truly the things that I love, and letting this team run the business. What my husband and I are also focusing on building our net worth. So we've been working on investing in real estate and stocks and things like that. So the cash that the Action Coach business is generating is allowing us to now invest in our ongoing future. So that's where we're at right now. We're working on building a business that can work without me on a day-to-day. We're not quite there yet, but we're well on our way.
Very cool. And you brought up Jeff again and his business. How much him being a business owner, and he's a CPA firm owner, so typically CPAs are pretty solid business people, and he had a similar corporate background as you did.
Mhm.
And how valuable has you being an action coach been for him and his business? It's almost kind of a double whammy benefit, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, we like being married, so I don't coach him. Right? That's rule number one. But we do share some common clients, not all. He is actually the CFO in residence for our board of directors program that we have. So, it's great because he understands what we ask for from our clients in terms of financials and things like that. There's obviously some, referrals going back and forth, but he also gets referrals from other action coaches because they know that he gets it, understands the type of information that we're looking for. And so it's been an invaluable asset for us.
Yeah, and he comes to conference with you and
He does.
certainly applies some of the stuff that he's learning and all that to his
I
business.
I think that is absolutely critical, particularly for candidate coaches going through the due diligence. My husband was alongside me the whole way. He was very much a part of the decision. And I think that that is absolutely critical because you're going to need that support system when things get a little bumpy, right? As any business does when it's first getting started.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, he seemed kind of skeptical when we first met that day at the coffee shop, but he was open to actually going through the process. What was it that helped him get through some of his skepticism and some of his own fears of the possibility of doing something like this?
Well, I think a key part was just you and Annette and just talking us through it. And, I don't think we felt sold to or anything like that. As a matter of fact, it was almost the opposite. Like, make sure this is for you. Here's kind of our open book of you can talk to this person, and talk to a person that maybe isn't a coach anymore, at which we did. And so I think the key was just the relationship that you and Annette built with us from day one and that we continue to have today.
Yeah. And so from your perspective, Heather, because you've seen a lot of coaches around the world, you're one of the trainers now, correct?
Yes,
Well,
I'm a
yep.
global trainer.
You're a master coach and a trainer. You've won some awards, and you're very disciplined about things. What is it? What are the key traits for somebody that if you're going to join Action Coach, definitely do this if boom, 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 and definitely run for the hills if X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So I think the number one trait, I'm very goal oriented and competitive. So I grew up in sports as well. So if you kind of relate it to that, when I first went to training, one of my goals was to be rookie of the year because I knew if I set that, then that meant I achieved the best that could be achieved in that given year, right? So that was my goal coming out of training. Met that goal. I had another goal then was to make it far enough up in the rankings. I'd be in the top 100. Made that goal. Then it was to be a master coach. Made that goal. Then it was to be a global trainer. Made that goal. So I am always setting the next bar and working towards it. So having a goal and not settling for just going through the day to day. I'm not a going through the day to day kind of person and seeing what's up. I am always motivated towards a goal and get frustrated when I don't hit it, right? So that's a key characteristic that can be a negative, but I will do whatever it takes to hit that goal. If you are somebody that is looking at this like, oh, this is like a nice hobby in my retirement or something like that, I think that's okay. But I think that this is more for people who want to build a positive net worth for their personal, for their family beyond just a side business, if that makes sense.
Yep, exactly. And obviously, do you mind sharing a couple of your statistics just so people can understand from a business planning perspective?
No, so my first year, so keep in mind I finished training on February 14th of 2014. So Valentine's Day. So I didn't have a whole year of productivity, but in that end of year, I made 70,000 revenue. Now there are coaches since then who have done far better than I have, but that was my track. My goal was to always double. So the next year I doubled, I was at 140. Then I doubled again. So what is that? 3 something. And this year we'll be on track to be hopefully close to 500,000. The goal was actually 750,000, but we're still growing. We didn't double, but we're still growing even in the midst of a pandemic that's going on currently this year.
Yeah, COVID definitely threw a little monkey wrench into things.
Right. Pretty thankful for
Yeah,
that.
and speaking of COVID,
Mhm.
what was your experience in terms of how quickly the franchisor pivoted, how quickly we as master licensees pivoted, how quickly franchisees in
Yeah.
our Action Coach community were able to pivot and continue, like you said, even growing in the midst of this?
So, you go back to that question of, hey, the difference between going off as a one-off coach and then having this network behind you, I think was absolutely critical. So a couple things. Number one, during this pandemic, we did not lose one client. We not only did they survive, but they're all actually thriving. They're doing very well because they were healthy going in. Even new clients, though, we were able to help them plan through it rather than panic. And we had restaurants, right, that were completely shut down. One of the benefits of having a global franchise behind you is that in this particular instance, this pandemic was hitting in other countries really before it got here. So I was on the phone. I know other coaches were on the phone with our counterparts in other parts of the world to see kind of what they were doing and how they were getting through it and how the businesses were reacting so that we could actually be ahead of it here. The other thing is that Brad Sugars, our MLs, you and Craig and Annette, and other leaders within Action Coach around put together some great materials for us right out of the gate. For example, one of them was the 11 critical things you've got to do right now, right, to get through this. And so the materials were created for us. We duplicated it. We got that out to messaging to not just our clients, but when you're going through that, you're helping every business in the community, whether they're a client or not. We were doing weekly webinars that were very relevant to what they were facing at that time. So, 11 critical things you've got to do right away. Then it was, what do I do with my employees that can't work anymore? Then about 3 to 4 weeks later, it was cash flow, right? Because then it was, how do I fill out my grants and PPP monies and things like that. So we were doing very relevant topical webinars each week. At some point, we had over 100 people on our calls. We even had the governor's office on our webinars because we were generating so much content that was valuable to the business community.
Yeah, I remember that you had the economic development officer for the governor's
Mm-hmm.
office
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
on one of the webinars. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Heather, what is a typical acquisition cost for a new client for you? What has been your experience on that side of it? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to marketing properly. If you market properly, you can grow properly. It's really that simple.
Yeah. So ours is a little higher than others. And the reason being, there's a book that Brad Sugars wrote called Buying Customers. I encourage everybody to read it. It was a game changer for my business. It taught me how to buy customers. And so let me step back a minute. And this goes back to a previous question. There are two forms of generating leads, right? There's farming, which takes some time. That's kind of the networking and building relationships and things like that. And then there's hunting, which is just going out and buying the customers. And because of my focus and purpose of wanting to be with my family, not go to evening networking events and things like that. And again, I'm not saying those are wrong. That just wasn't where I wanted to spend my time. I was willing to put the money to buy the customers. So my cost of acquisition is actually fairly high. It's probably about $500, sometimes up to $1,000 a client. But I also now charge a minimum of $3,000 a month for one-on-one coaching. So if you think of it that way, it more than pays for itself in the first 2 weeks of coaching.
So your ROI is a couple of weeks of coaching.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's like one.
Yeah. Oh,
1.2.
yeah. Yeah. Coming from the corporate world, if we could get an ROI of 12 months, it was a slam dunk.
Right.
Deal. Yeah.
Right.
And stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and so your minimum one-on-one charge is 3,000. What was it when you first started?
1,500.
Okay. Yep.
1,500.
So excellent.
So, and now so to be honest, because remember, I'm trying to move to those more leverage programs. So I priced it pretty high. And I keep getting people signing up for it. So,
Better raise your prices again.
what's that?
Raise the prices some more.
Yeah, that's the minimum. It depends on the size of the company. It can go up to 5,600 a month, depending on the size of the company. So that's the minimum.
Yep. And now we've got a guarantee, and we don't require franchise partners to use or leverage the guarantee if they don't want to. But do you leverage our 17-week guarantee?
I always communicate it during my speaking events. It is on all of our materials. And I can tell you in 6.5 years, I have not had one client call out on it.
Yeah.
It's never even come up.
So excellent.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the clients, you mentioned this earlier, but if they're willing to learn and they're coachable, they'll make a great client. Is there any other key characteristics that you look for in somebody who would make a great client for you?
Yeah, they have to want to grow. And I know that sounds silly, but you'd be amazed at how many times where we'll be doing a complimentary coaching session for a client, like, I'm good where I'm at. Well, that's not a good client for us. You must be willing to grow. You must be willing to do the work. You must be coachable, and you must be willing to accept new ways of thinking.
And it's pretty simple at the
Yeah.
end of the day. Yeah. Any other advice you would give to somebody who's considering Action Coach for a career?
Yeah, I would just say do your due diligence, talk to everybody, take all the input as exactly that, it's input. You'll find your own path in your own way. If you look at the top 20 coaches, I think we teeter around number 20, 21 right now. We all have a different business model, every single one of us. And that's one of the great parts about Action Coach is that you can create the business model how you want to. You can run your business how you want to. So do your work, take that input, and then determine the best approach for you. What will work for you? And just go for it. Like I've said in other interviews, my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. My husband and I often say, wow, what if we'd have started this 10 years ago? Where would we be? Right? Much different.
Yeah, exactly. And you raise a good point, Heather. If we could touch on that, is everybody's got a different business model because their goals and what they want to offer and their lifestyle and all that kind of stuff is they define it differently.
Mhm.
However, following the system is so crucially important.
We all still follow the system.
Exactly. And what's interesting is some people will look at franchises because, okay, cookie cutter systems, they think. But
Mhm.
we're not cookie cutter. We're not like a McDonald's where every Big Mac is exactly the same, where we've got to customize and personalize our toolbox and our systems for ourselves and our individual clients. So could you just elaborate on that a little bit, what it means to
Yeah,
follow the system, but yet make it your
right.
own?
So we have kind of a standard methodology that we take clients through. That's those 6 steps to a profitable business that can work without you. We all follow the same definition of a successful business, which is a commercial profitable enterprise that can work without you. It's how we deliver that methodology that may be different. So some coaches may do it in a group setting. Some may do it from an executive coaching setting, right? Just working with the leaders of the company. Some work with only particular industries because that's maybe what their preference or their passion is. Some people do it face to face. Some people, like I started my practice only Zoom. I've never done face-to-face coaching ever, mainly because I live out in the middle of nowhere. But I'm also teaching my clients to be efficient and effective with their time. So I don't want them spending time driving to an office to make me look good, right? So, the great part about it is everybody can choose how they deliver the system and how they get value to the clients.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool that way. Like coming out of the corporate world, You and I had similar backgrounds, both supply chain, both large corporations, things like that. And I thought I've got to add my own critical thinking to the mix on whatever I do. I can't just rotely, make burgers the way they told me to
Right,
make them, kind of thing.
right,
And
right.
yeah, and I find some people go, well, do you actually use the system a lot, given how strong your corporate background was? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah,
I actually use very little from my corporate background.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Me too.
Yeah. So, well, very cool. Anything I should have asked that I didn't ask, if you put your hat back on from back when you were considering Action Coach and all that kind of stuff, anything I should have asked that I didn't, that can help people uh, get through the process and make good decisions for themselves?
No, I think those are typically the questions that people ask when they call. And I would just say, do your homework. You won't find a system like this anywhere. I can tell you that. It doesn't exist. I did my homework. There may be some trying to get there, but we are the number one business coaching firm in the world for a reason. We get results, and our systems are proven, and they work.
And our culture is amazing.
It is.
It really is. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I really
Okay,
appreciate this. And tell Jeff I said hi.
I will. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.